Uganda has again remained resilient amidst all the problems. Maybe I should start by saying that Uganda is a small, open economy and a price taker. This should be recorded. Uganda is a small, open economy and therefore a price taker. When you are a small, open economy, you are a price taker, you get challenges. In other words, your prices are determined by other economies that are bigger than you. And when I explain, you see some of the issues that comes with that. And because of that, Uganda is still at the stage where it is developing, no doubt, and is influenced by external shocks, is influenced by external factors. Since COVID time, Uganda has had big challenges, as you know. One, COVID affected all economies, and you heard the president talk about the fact that the tourism sector, the hospitality industry was grossly affected. The second one was also remittances. The remittances we are getting from abroad, from our brothers and sisters that work in different places, which was above 1.3 billion US dollars was affected. Tourism, which before COVID was above 1.5 billion US dollars, was affected. And then fast forward, the supply chains, the global supply chains were affected. Some of the companies in the world closed. Even here, companies closed. So even movement of goods and services after COVID was still haphazard, but also slow, which meant the cost of imports, for example, was high. And why do I talk imports? Because as you realize, we import raw materials for base metal and products. We import petroleum. We import machinery and equipment, excluding these user vehicles, the final vehicles, the second hand you get. When you see investors coming to set up an industrial area, they will need machines. They will need equipment. They need to establish a whole factory, which they have to import. We are still starting to mine and use our iron ore, but you know, most of the iron ore, iron-based products, which we produce and even export, we need those raw materials. But also, because of COVID again and related, and Ebola and malaria, which is still with us, we still import a lot of medicines and drugs. And that should also explain why our exports are still high. The president guided in his real economy versus the vulnerable economy, which was again captured in NDP3, that import replacement. Surely we should be able to produce certain things that we have been small consumables. But the president has moved to the next level of supporting the production of vehicles that are climate friendly. He has also gone into directing that they should produce border. You know, these days the word border is an indication motorbike. And they are going to be exchanging. You bring your border, the one which is using petroleum products, you exchange it in a good arrangement and you take away that. That is part of import substitution. Now, the other challenge the globe faced was that those economies are already suffering because they were affected by COVID and the factors that followed and the conditions that followed. When you import goods from these countries, you import inflation. And Uganda, a small country, open economy, of course imports for reasons that we are looking at. Sometimes we don't have the products that we need to consume. Sometimes we produce raw materials. Sometimes we import spare parts. So that has affected us and has affected other economies. By the way, some of the countries in the neighborhood have inflation going to 30, even 40%. And you have had countries in West Africa, powerful countries like Ghana, Nigeria, who have gone above 40% of inflation. Then the price of fuel went haywire. And for the reasons including the fact that the economy, the world economy, the vagaries of the economy affected supply chains, a movement of goods and services, including petroleum products. But it was made worse by the war in Ukraine with Russia. As you know, that made it worse. I must mention also that from Ukraine and Russia we import also what would now eventually, when we process them, we call them cooking oil, as in our local English, what we call vegetable oils and fats. So we import raw materials from those two countries. I had the opportunity to show in the meeting before this year ended, naysayers, people were saying, the war with Ukraine with Russia doesn't affect us. I showed them that the top 5 import countries, import sources of agriculture-related products, top 5, Russia and Ukraine. And so all this affected Uganda, especially the price of petroleum products, the price transport. When transport prices go high, they will not only affect those who are producing for export, they also affect those who are doing small retail and internal trade. Because then you have to factor in the cost of transport. No good or service will move from one end to another without having issue of movement. There is movement of materials, there is movement of raw materials, there is movement of finished products, there is movement of documents, and that affected our economy. Can I say that despite that, Uganda's economy has managed to be resilient and be above others because of the approaches and the decisions that the government of Uganda took, including refusing to subsidize. Because when you subsidize petroleum products, where are you going to get the money? You are going to borrow. I have shown you that in most cases, petroleum products can be more than 1 billion. If you subsidize it by 25% or 30, $300 million US, where are you going to get that money? And who benefits from that directly are certain people in the chain. They benefit directly. So they'll be coming at the end of the month, putting their bills. You owe us so much, you owe us so much. It has happened in countries that made those decisions differently from Uganda. So this explains how Ugandan economy has remained resilient and strong, good policies, good leadership, and still, again, there is something important that people never know. Uganda being where we are located, by chance, God decided that we are located where we are located. You have chances of 3 rainfall seasons in a year. What does that mean? Then whenever you have a season, you avoid food inflation. Whenever you have, so after season, and that's why you see sometimes when there is a lot of dryness, when there is, and then you begin to see uneasiness in the economy, because the cost of food goes up. Everyone needs food. We do eat to live. We don't live to eat, but since we eat to live, everyone needs a meal. So that affects the performance of the economy, and that every season you'll see with good harvests that comes down. And we need, of course, to go to add value to be sure that we do what? We do value addition, because then value addition will ensure that we will not only be like birds which immediately have to get the harvest immediately the products are ripe, and then afterwards they are suffering without food. So we need to do a value addition so that we can always even store these products in a different form, and then we can always sell them when there is no harvest. There are two things. People think markets are important. Yes, markets are important, but you have to have something to produce there. For you to be able to produce for the market, the export market and even domestic market, you must be market oriented. Market-oriented production. Market-oriented production requires that about these things I'm going to give. One, with market-oriented production, you need investment. In other words, you must deliberately invest to produce for the market. And then once you have invested, then you produce. When you produce having a customer in mind. These days, even we have moved from mass marketing and we even have customization. That you are supplying one company or one individual who you tailor the product you are producing for that particular individual, that particular company, that particular market. The third one then is look for markets. So you have invested, deliberately you have produced, then you are looking for the markets. When you come to looking for the markets, there are many ways you can do it, but one of the ways, of course, is to have the right product, what we call product development for target markets. Each different market has a different way they want a product in terms of packaging, in terms of total quality, in terms of sizes. Now, once you have done that, then you go into the market. Different ways you go into the market. One of the ways is direct buyer-seller linkage, which we have been trying. Given our mega budget, we have been trying this. We have done it in the central, in Mitiana, in around near Tambara, Wakiso, in Soroti, in Guru, and we tried that one in the we call it west or southwest, I think, parts of Kasese and Renzo region, where we bring exporters and link them directly with the producers, and therefore they buy from them directly. This we have done mainly for fruits and vegetables and grains, and it has worked. The other approach, of course, is to take them to the market, the foreign market, and you take them ahead of time. You do research and invite those you think will buy from our Ugandan producers and exporters. So you select certain products that you will be taking to that market and promote. You don't just wake up and enter the market and think you are bringing investors, you are bringing exporters. The exports will not grow like that. So with regard to performance of exports, exports can only continue to perform if you observe what I've said. You invest deliberately for the market. And I'm not saying only the export market. You invest deliberately for a market, a market-oriented approach. You don't produce subsistence and you think that you become a market-oriented country. So you must have a market-oriented approach. And going forward, the next 3 years, our target is that we are going to involve everybody, government and private sector, in a market-oriented approach, mindset, so that they know they are producing for the market, which comes with quality, which comes with quantity. You see, with subsistence, somebody grows one acre of maize, eats half, and sells half, and you find him relaxing, because then the higher goal, the higher target has not been set, because he doesn't see it as a commercial enterprise. He sees it as his way of life. He has always in his family grown 1 acre, eaten, consumed half, and sold half to whoever. He even doesn't know that what he even produces ends up even beyond the Ugandan market and enters an export market. So our approach now will no longer be that only you talk of the export. We will begin with the government and the private sector. How do you produce for the market? And you had the president was explaining the difference between GNP, gross national products, and GDP. GDP is all that has been earned within the economy, is that country's economy, isn't it? All that has been earned within the economy is that country's national output. Informal sector, we need to reduce the size of the informal sector, because the informal sector, they never pay their employees. Informal sector, they never pay taxes. Informal sector, some of them are not permitted enterprises, and therefore it's very difficult to account for GDP, for growth of the economy. Once they are in, is good. We need, of course, to widen the tax base also related to that, but maybe we could also give incentives to those who have been informal and accept to formalize. Or we could give them incentives like we give incentives to investors, because that would be good. When we do that, the more we formalize, the more we create more jobs and formal jobs. And then formal jobs, it is good because then there you have certainty. If they don't pay you, you can sue, or you can be sued if you have not performed. So we need to formalize, a lot of formalization of the economy. I am so happy that over the years, URA, KCCA, and URSB have come together to go to visit shops physically in Chikuba and wherever, and they go giving them what? Formalizing them by giving them registration number, giving them a TIN. Progressively, this will help to widen tax base, but also to create more jobs. But also, if you are formalized, it gives you assurance. I have seen people like saying, with regard to exports, exports have been growing, but you are sure there was COVID and all these challenges, but they have been growing above even 4.5, but even more because there is informal that is difficult to capture. And then and imports have remained between 6 and 7. But like I said, why do we import? One, we import things that we don't produce. Why do we import? We import medicines and drugs and vaccines for COVID, for Ebola, for malaria. Why do we import? We import machines and spare parts. Why do we import? We import raw materials. Why do we import? We import machines that we need to use in making of other products that we cannot. We import raw materials when you look at base metal products, you know, the iron bars, metayimba, those products, and even iron sheets that we use for construction. We have not yet exploited very well our iron ore, which we have. We are lucky that we have. Other countries don't have it. But until we do that, we will be exporting base metal products, and we are getting a lot of money out of it. But also we are importing petroleum. We have not yet produced our petroleum down there products. So again, we import. So we will import. We need to import substitute to those other consumer things that we can produce. But again, let me emphasize that the president has already supported the production of Kayora bus and all those vehicles, and that the borders motorcycles will be produced which are climate smart and will be substituted with those that we have been importing. So this you will see under machinery, vehicle, machinery equipment, vehicles and accessories, and that you will see that go down. For you to increase exports, sometimes you have to import substitute. In other words, import replacement. Produce locally what you have been importing. So once you do that, then the dollar remains in the country, the money remains in the country, and that is of course good for the economy. Then you borrow less because the jet to DP ratio is important. Export debt ratios are very important, because then the more you export, the more you get reserves. I tell you, exports are going to grow. The parish development model is important as well. You know, parish development model is very important because it will increase production. And once it increases production with cooperatives and associated produce associations, then once we have made them market-oriented enterprises and market-oriented approaches we have used, then the market we will penetrate a lot of markets. Let me again mention, one of our major markets is the regional market. One of our markets is the regional market. EAC COMESA is one of our big markets, getting more than 50% of our products. If we have to increase exports, especially within the EAC COMESA, we need good facilities at the border. We need good facilities at the border. We need good border infrastructure. The Minister of Trade, for more than 5 years ago, they started on this effort of building, with the Minister of Works, of building border infrastructure, working with URA, working with Minister of Works, with the support they got from the Europeans under Trademark East Africa. They built borders as you go to Kenya. They built some borders as you go to Rwanda, and government, with the support of others, they also built Mpondwe. In my view is that we need all those borders were built with facilities, including going to via Nimule and other places, because that is the best way now. Even with instability, people can always come cross the border. And thank you, Your Excellency the President, for removing the visa for our brothers and sisters in DR Congo who can always come cross the border, buy the products they want to buy, and they go back. This will be good, and this will increase movement of people, but also movement of goods. So when you have export border markets, export border zones, export exit facilities, good exit facilities, infrastructure, whereby you can, our producers, our manufacturers can take the goods to the border. They don't need to cross the country. They take them to these borders in good storage facilities, and then they will be picked. I tell you, if all these borders happen in the next 5 years, Uganda's regional trade will more than double. Very important. USA and Mexico did this, and USA companies made a lot of money by selling to Mexicans, because they didn't want Mexicans to come and cross and become immigrants, some of them illegal. So they decided, we'll bring them goods to the border, you buy and go away. It is a good thing. Some countries even close and put them in the foreign country, the other side, and then you can pick them from there. So that is important. Now, the other important aspect is that given what we have gone through, COVID, high cost of fuel, scarcity of raw materials for bread and vegetable oils and fats, knowing that even because vegetable oils and fats are used for making for export, we export vegetable oils and fats, but the products, what you normally call it, cooking oil, the raw materials for cooking oil, we use it also to make soap. You have heard of that. So this affected domestic trade with the fuel high. This affected external trade. But despite that, Uganda was able to perform above 4 billion actually. If all the statistics are correct, we can say at least 4.5 billion, because there is informal that we cannot account for, and the imports were around 7 billion. So you are saying that actually you have 7 billion of imports, you have 4.5 billion of exports, so 2.5. But if you look at statistics before, there is a time where we would import more than 4 billion of imports. So therefore, the efforts of import substitution are already working. The efforts of government and the private sector putting a thrust on promoting exports have worked. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, those who who are watching UBC and watching us, exporting is a process. It is not like importing, where you pick man and go and pick. Exporting is you develop a product, you develop a market, you target a market, you even develop a buyer, and you create a relationship, and you penetrate. And it goes also with image. And you have to produce for export. But for you to produce for export, you have to be a market economy. You have to be a market-oriented producer. Because sometimes you produce, you export a balance of what you have consumed domestically as an economy. But the efforts by government, the efforts by civil society, the efforts by activists, the efforts by even professional organizations like Export Promotion Board here, they will pay. They will pay, and I'm telling you, you see, to increase exports is not 1, 2, 3 years. No, to increase exports, it will be 5 years, will be 10 years, and you'll see it happening.